Hey guys, welcome to my series of updated Warlords of Draenor guides. In this video I'm going to teach you how to play Frost Death Knight. If you are returning to this video, then I'd like to mention there's actually a menu section in the description of the guide so you can navigate to the different sections. This video is going to have a very clear and cohesive structure. There are going to be a number of sections I'm going to go through, and obviously they're going to have their own little subsections. The sections are as follows. First of all, I'm going to teach you how to do damage, how to put the pressure out. Then we're going to touch on the PvP utilities, so that could be like crowd control, defensive cooldowns, how to do that kind of thing. Then we'll go into macros, teach you how to use macros properly. Then I'll give you my rough idea how to gear properly, because obviously it's we are very limited in that field now. Then I'm going to touch on arena comps, RBG comps, and how to use your skills in those kind of environments. So let's just give a quick rundown on what all the abilities do. Now, Obliterate is going to be what you're using most of the time. It's what consumes your runes about 90% of the time. It's your biggest damaging ability. It also has a chance to make your next Howling Blast completely cost no runes. Okay, so be wary of that. You only will be using Howling Blast really when that effect occurs. Frost Strike's one of the thing that's consuming your runic power most of the time. This also has a chance to trigger the rune regeneration abilities in one of the talent tiers. For instance, at the moment I'm going with Runic Corruption. I'll explain why a little bit later. But basically what it does is it decreases regeneration rate of your runes so they come back quicker. The next ability I want to draw your attention to is Necrotic Plague, which is probably the strongest talent for Frost DK to go for at the moment. This isn't because of the dot itself, actually, because the dot itself is pretty lame in Frostspec. But but dots are lame in Frostspec anyway, so this is actually an improvement to the dot damage. But the main reason why we choose this is because whenever you are attacked by someone with Necrotic Plague, and bearing in mind everyone will have Necrotic Plague because of Howling Blast, which just AoEs them all, gets a dot on them all, you start generating runic power every time someone attacks you. And that runic power equals more Frost Strikes, equals more runes, more damage. A shitload more damage, but it also increases your healing. So the last normal ability would be Outbreak, which essentially does what Howling Blast does without doing any damage. Just puts your Necrotic Plague up, use it whenever it's off cooldown, or obviously whenever you don't have your dots up. Let's talk about the cooldowns briefly. Pillar of Frost, it's amazing. Such a short cooldown. Increases your strength by about 20%. You want to be using this obviously whenever it's off cooldown, and you want to line it up with all your other strength procs, such as your Trinket or your Rune of Fallen Crusader, all that kind of juicy stuff. It also makes you immune to external movement effects. I haven't actually tested that properly. It says knockbacks, could be slows, I'm not actually sure. I'll test that probably later and give you an update. Now, there's also Empower Rune Weapon. What it does, you want to make sure you're only using this when you absolutely need to use it. It completely refreshes all your runes, so you want to be using this when you have no runes and no runic power, otherwise it's a bit of a waste. Or you kind of want to be using it when you have a Killing Frenzy proc and you're really close to a kill. Okay, the most important aspect of Frost DK is to learn the functionality of Killing Machine. What it is, your auto attacks have a chance to make your next Obliterate or Frost Strike a guaranteed critical strike. Now, that occurs whenever your melee weapon hits the target, and the slower the weapon, the higher chance it occurs. But also, whenever you use a melee ability, for instance, Obliterate or Frost Strike, that chance is also increased. So imagine every melee swing, it's about 10% chance. Every normal melee swing, but that 10% chance occurs again whenever you use Frost Strike or Obliterate or Plague Strike or any other melee ability. Now the remaining woolly abilities are not really used a lot in PvP as Frost DK. We've got Blood Boil, which is going to spread your Necrotic Plague. Not really used because you can do that Howling Blast, but I don't know. Death and Decay, you may want to put that down when enemies are clumped up, but generally I don't really bother. I sometimes do that in RPGs. We'll talk about Death Strike later because obviously it's a healing ability predominantly. What else is there? Plague Strike. You might want to use that if Necrotic Plague isn't up, because you want to keep Necrotic Plague up all the time. Perhaps you don't have any chance of using Howling Blast or Outbreak. But that's pretty much it for offensive abilities. Now I'm going to teach you. Oh, there's actually Sorreeper. I'm not really sure about Sorreeper, to be honest. I don't think it gives enough advantage for it actually to be useful in Frostspec. I mean, you might disagree with me. I would only recommend applying it with your strength cooldowns. But you know, it doesn't. I don't think it does as much damage as an outbreak crit, so obliterate crit. So I don't think there's much point. You may want to use it, you may not. And it's got a hefty cooldown as well in Prospect. So, you know. Okay, before we can actually start getting gritty and teaching you how to use all his abilities properly, you need to fully understand how the runes work, how they regenerate, and how the runic power works. Okay, so each rune you consume gives you 10 runic power. There are a few exceptions, but we won't get into that yet. So Obliterate consumes 2 runes, it gives you 20 runic power. Now the thing you need to understand about runes is only one type of rune can regenerate at once. So your 2 death runes, only one of them can regenerate. Okay, if you've consumed them both, the second one won't even regenerate, it will just stay there, doing nothing. And the same with all your other runes. You can only regenerate one type of rune at one time. So, when it comes to actually using your Frost Strikes to try and regenerate your runes, you want to make sure you've used at least 3 Obliterates, because you want to have the most rune time up as possible. Say you only use 1 rune. You don't want to regenerate one rune, you want to be regenerating all 3 at the same time. Now to do this, you want to make sure you're using your Frost Strike when you have all your runes off cooldown. So you start off with your Obliterates, and then you use your Frost Strikes to regenerate those 3 runes all at the same time for maximum rune uptime with Runic Corruption. Runic Corruption is the most, by far, optimal choice because it regenerates 3 runes at once. I've tested all the other ones, it gives you the most rune uptime. Now let's properly start explaining how to use his abilities properly. The 3 main abilities you want to focus on are Obliterate, Frost Strike, and Howling Blast. I know I'm probably repeating myself, but we really need to get this in your head. Now, they are really the only abilities that are going to do any decent damage. Perhaps perhaps the other ability was it, Soul Reaper might come in useful, but those 3 abilities are what you're going to be focused on. And what you predominantly want to be focusing on is the proc Killing Machine, which has a chance to either make your Obliterate or Frost Strike a guaranteed critical hit. You want to prioritize the Killing Machine proc with Obliterate because it'll do like twice as much damage as the actual Frost Strike. Now your Obliterates, they have a chance to make your Howling Blast cost no runes, but it also increases the damage of that free Howling Blast. You only want to use it when you get the free Howling Blast, unless it's absolutely essential that you get your Necrotic Plague on as much people as possible. You know, decrease your runic power. So let's talk about the remaining passive abilities that's still like kind of going on in the background. Your first choice for talent is definitely going to be Plague Bearer, simply because it gets your Necrotic Plague stacks up a little higher. It has the most uptime and getting. The thing is, you run it on Holy DK, so it can extend the duration of Necrotic Plague. But what Plague Bearer does, it kind of just allows you to keep those stacks going. Just to get them up a bit quicker, to do a bit more damage. It's basically the optimal choice out of the rest because this talent tree is a little sucky. What's also happening, whenever you get your Freezing Frog proc, your Freezing Frog proc is basically when you use your Obliterate and then you get a free Howling Blast. That's what Freezing Frog is called, that's what I was calling it before. Whenever you use that free Howling Blast, it also increases all damage on the target by an extra 10%, and that's why in the next clip I am using it pretty much whenever I get it, because it's going to increase my damage by those Killing Machine Obliterates. Okay, so I'm just going to go through me doing some damage. I'm going to briefly talk through it while I'm doing it. Now, remember, pop your cooldowns in the open. The reason why is because your procs have a higher chance to occur in like the first few seconds of a fight. So I'm going to pop Pillar of Frost and my Trinket. I'm going to start spamming Obliterates. I've got Freezing Fog there. I'm going to get all my Obliterates on. So if he was a player, I'd be getting a lot of runic power right now. There I got a Killing Machine, big crit. It's like 1.5 million, but obviously it's not squished. And then I have all my runes off cooldown, so I'm going to start using my Frost Strikes. But I kind of like pause for a bit there because I don't want to use the Killing Machine with a Frost Strike. I was patient. Now I can use it with the Obliterate. I'm going to use the Freezing Fog thing, and then I'm going to keep consuming runes. There you go, got Killing Machine. Now all my runes are off cooldown, so I'm going to use the Frost. I should have waited a bit longer there. That was a mistake. That could have cost me the game. I'm going to do it again. All my runes are cooldown, but some of them are coming back, so I'm going to wait. There you go. Worth waiting, isn't it? Worth waiting. Oh, I should have waited then. You have to be really, really patient. You have to, if you're spamming your Frost Strikes, you have to be like, okay, I'll do it now, then pause. Do it now, and then pause, because you do not want to waste your Killing Machine with your Frost Strike. Let's do one more run. Killing Machine, spamming Outbreaks, Freezing Frog. Always fill in with the Howling Blast free thing. Alright. Runes of Cooldown. Ah, see, I should have waited. That is the biggest mistake you can make as a Frost DK. It's really, really pedantic. Oh, I've got good luck then. I'm going to wait for it to come off cooldown before I start using my Frost Strike. See, it was worth waiting, wasn't it? Right, all my runes are off cooldown. I'm going to use a Frost Strike. I'm going to use the Outbreak, Freezing Fog Filler, Frost Strike, pause, Frost Strike, pause. Okay, wait. That's a good time to use Empire Rune Weapon. No, wait. This is a good time to use Empire Rune Weapon. I should have used it earlier. Use it as early as you can. Spamming the Frost Strikes, Outbreak. Now I'm going to use Empire Rune Weapon. Filling with the Howling Blast. Filling with it there. Okay, all my runes have cooldown. Start using the Frost Strikes. Getting very unlucky with killing machines at the moment. And there we go, got a killing machine. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Remember, only use your Frost Strikes when all your runes are off cooldown. Prioritise your killing machine with the Obliterate, and you should be fucking fine. I mean, it's a very simple class, gotta be honest with you. Okay, now let's start, getting onto that bit of advanced level. Let's talk about the utility of the class. First of all, I'm going to go into crowd control. The only ability that you want to be using for crowd control, in the tier of level 58, you do not want to be using Death's Advance or Chill Blades. Over time, you want to go for Asphyxiate. It gives you a massive crowd control uptime, reduces a lot of healing, because that's essentially what crowd control does. It completely blocks healing. What you want to do is you want to use your crowd control on the healer while pressing the DPS. Now, Asphyxiate. It's 30-second cooldown, 5-second stun. You want to be using it whenever you have it available. The thing you need to learn about crowd control is you want to chain crowd control. So you want to use your stun, and then your arena pattern. You want to say, for instance, with Hunter, right? Hunter trap, 7 seconds, 5-second stun, silence. You want to chain it all up with your healer as well, doing the crowd control, and you want to wait until your crowd control is completely finished. It's this thing that people will penalise you for, is overlapping your crowd control. You see your trap there, it's only been on for 2 seconds, and then you stun. Don't do that. Wait for the trap to, use its full duration, and then you stun. Because you want to have the maximum, you want the healer, or whoever you're crowd controlling, out of the game for the maximum time possible. So that's Asphyxiate. Okay, next crowd control is Mind Freeze. Basically, it's essentially a 4-second silence. You want to be using this on, you can use this on a healer even though you're not on him. You just need to move over and kind of lock him. But what it does, whenever a healer is casting in the middle of that cast, if you use it, you silence them in that spell tree for 4 seconds. Now, what you've got to be careful of is what healers do, and other DPS, is they try to fake cast. So they cast it a bit, and then they cancel it themselves to trick you into using Mind Freeze, putting it off cooldown, so that then they can follow up with free casting. You want to be careful of that. You want to wait until the cast is as late as possible before you actually lock it. You want to be careful of that. And also, some healers, for instance, a Resto Shaman will cast Lava Burst. Obviously, if you lock him in 5 spells, you can still heal. So don't do that. Be wary of that kind of thing. Now, the next crowd control ability is the most overpowered ability in the game. Okay, no shit. Problem is, it is the hardest ability to use in the game, and that is Dark Simulacrum. Essentially, what you do is, as soon as you see a healer or DPS casting, for instance, a Warlock casting Fear, as soon as you see the cast bar up, you pop Dark Simulacrum, and then you steal the Fear. Okay, that's the only way you want to be using Dark Simulacrum, is to steal crowd control. DK lack crowd control, but with Dark Simulacrum, we have too much crowd control. So this is what separates a really good DK from an average DK, is really good spell steals. That you need to master Dark Simulacrum, how to use it properly, and you'll be pushing some seriously fucking high rating, because this is it is just an amazing ability. So you want to be making it. I'll talk about macros later, but you want to be making Arena 1, 2, 3 macro. You want to only be using Dark Simulacrum for crowd control. Now what we also have, it's not really a crowd control, but it's a slow, so we're going to count it as a crowd control. It's Chains of Ice. Now it ruins your rotation a bit, but you have to use it sometimes. Put them in a slow for a decent amount of time. It is decent slow, to catch up on ranged. If you can't catch up on range, then you have to use it. It's just how it is. But you also want to be spamming this, because you can spam 4 of these in a row. You want to be spamming them on melee DPS. For instance, like peeling a healer or peeling your arena partner. So it's a really, really good peel. Make sure you learn how to use it properly. Now we also have Death Grip. Obviously that is a gap opener, and obviously it's actually a damage buff now these days. As soon as you use Death Grip with the set bonus, the next ability becomes 25%. but yeah, it gets more 25% more damage. You want to use that, you know, at the optimum time when you have like strength boxes, strength cooldowns, and you've got a killing machine proc with Obliterate. But you can also use this on the focus target to interrupt casts. I mean, it's not massive, but it can still be a little bit helpful. That is essentially it for crowd control. You might be thinking, what about Remorse Winter? Remorse Winter is fucking garbage. Don't use it. Okay, let's go into defensive cooldowns and healing. So first of all, we've got Anti-Magic Shell, which you want to be using this as late as possible because it is your strongest defensive cooldown. It blocks pretty much all magic damage. Nobody's going to damage you through Anti-Magic Shell if they've got a brain. But use it when you're like 10% health, 10-20% health. You want to use it as late as possible because it's, you know, it's kind of an unforgiving cooldown, and it is your strongest defensive cooldown. It also starts to generate runic power whenever you absorb damage, which is also helpful, so you can use that in sync with basically getting more damage out. We've also got Icebound Fortitude. It's really good to pop you out slows. We'll talk about that kind of stuff later. But whenever you're stunned, you can use it to pop out. But really, you want to be using this when you're taking a lot of damage, because it reduces your damage taken by 20%, which is actually pretty decent. Important thing to note is actually Blood Presence. This also is something you want to be using when you're taking a lot of damage. You want to switch into Blood Presence. You want to open in Blood Presence just to scare people away as well, but Blood Presence you want to be using definitely for taking a lot of damage. Okay, let's talk about healing. The most healing you're going to get from any ability is definitely Death Strike. It is a decent fucking heal, and it does more healing the more kind of damage you are doing at the same time. So you want to be, if you're in a desperate situation, you want to pop your strength cooldowns simply to heal with Death Strike. The thing that's great about this, you can use free Death Strike, so it's like heal 15k, 15k, 15k. It's a decent heal, and it probably won't be 15k, it'll be a lot more, it'll be like 20 to 30k. The other healing ability is Lichborn. What it does is increases your leech by 10%. What leech does is whenever you de-damage, percentage of that damage becomes healing. Now, obviously you want to be using this in sync with your strength cooldowns and doing as much damage as possible whenever you have Lichborn available to get the most healing possible. You also have this window of choice between Death Pact, Death Siphon and Conversion. People are saying Conversion is probably the best option. It is a bit hefty on the runic power, but it is, in Frostbite, I think it absorbs the least. You probably want to be going for Conversion whenever, you know, because it's kind of really nice with Necrotic Plague, because you're generating that runic power, so you're not lacking runic power. So it is good to use. It is good to use because it's more persistent, it's more reliable than Death Pact with its hefty cooldown and actually absorbing healing on you. So Death Pact can actually get you fucking killed sometimes, which is a bit shit. But obviously the healing, it's really your choice, but I would probably recommend Conversion. Once you nail how to use that properly, you'll be alright. So let's talk about how to break yourself out of CC. That is something that DK is probably the strongest than any other class in the game, is by breaking yourself out of CC. The biggest one is Desecrated Ground. What it does is it pops you out of any crowd control apart from Silence, I think. You can also pop you out of Roots now these days, which is really helpful. Basically, you crowd control, use Desecrated Ground, it acts like a trinket basically. But as long as you stay within the radius, you also prevented from any further crowd control, so you want to stay in it as long as possible. For instance, if you see more crowd control incoming, you want to stay in it. You want to stay there in your Desecrated Ground because you're there, you're safe, you're moist. Block any other crowd control. Lichborn, talked about it before. It also pops you out of sleep, spheres, and charms. So that could be mind control, it could be fear, sleep. I don't know. What sleep? I don't know. Sleep. I don't think DK could be sleeped in any way. I think only beasts can be sleeped, so you don't want to be worrying about that. What else? Obviously, Icebound Fortitude can pop you out of stuns, and then obviously we have Trinket, which pops you out of anything. So let's just touch on the remaining utility left in the game. That's Scorpion's Grasp. So what you want to be opting for this in Rated Battlegrounds. What you do is you basically, I'll talk about it a bit later, you masquerade into mass crowd control, for instance, Solar Beam, Ring of Frost, Howling Fear. I don't think that exists in the game anymore. But you basically use it, and every player around you is basically gripped towards you. I have a macro for it. You can actually do it to other people as well. But it's definitely something you want to be going for in Rated Battlegrounds. Okay, to finish off both this damage section and utility section, I'm going to actually go into the glyphs. You probably noticed I went through talents throughout everything, so you know. A mandatory talent that you want to go for, glyph even, is most certainly Glyph of Dark Simulacrum, because you're going to have a massive increase of the uptime of obviously the crowd control that you can steal. I definitely use this in Arena, like 24/7. I use it. The only time you wouldn't use it if you know you can't steal crowd control. So obviously, if a crowd control of the enemy team isn't casted, then you're not going to steal any, really, so there's no point going for it. And next, really good talent is Glyph, oh my god, Jesus, Glyph for Runic Power. Whenever you get slowed, you start generating even more Runic Power. Basically that results in more damage, more healing. I'd also recommend Glyph of Regenerative Magic. Obviously you don't want to go for that if there is any magic damage in the enemy team, but that's definitely something you want to be using, because you can use AMS also block out crowd control. So sometimes you only use it to block out crowd control, and then you kind of like, you didn't absorb any damage, so it's kind of a bit of a waste in that field. But with this glyph, the less damage you absorb, the less cooldown, basically, so it gives you more uptime on your AMS. Next one would be shifting presences, because you can shift in and out of a presences. Say for instance you suddenly get tunneled and you're taking shitloads of damage. You want to go into blood presence, obviously, to survive, but obviously if you don't have this glyph, or your runic power goes, and perhaps you need a runic power to heal with conversion. With this glyph you will still have a bit of runic power left, so you can still heal, so you won't be absolutely utterly fucked. Now there's a few left that sometimes they can become useful, but not a lot. I go for Death Grip, Glyph Death Grip, definitely on flag maps and RPG, so I can fucking grab that flag carrier, bring him back, and don't allow him for a second to get away. We've also got this Glyph of Empowerment. People are liking it. I don't know if I like it that much. Kind of forces you to use that ability as a heal, but what it does, it increases. You heal whenever you're using Pyromancer, and I'm not so sure about it. I'd also possibly consider Glyph Icy Runes, just to get that little extra rune power to make up with the fact that you're kind of ruining your rotation with Chains of Ice. I don't know why I had that accident on them, but Glyphs, pretty much nothing left. Other than using Resilient Grip. Sometimes you players are immune to grip, and you grip him and it like puts it off cooldown. It rarely happens, but sometimes it becomes useful. Let me see, I don't think there's anything else that's going to become useful. Perhaps Glyph of Powerful Frost might become a little bit useful in RPGs, but that is pretty much it. What's Glyph outside? Winter? No, it's just cosmetic. So that is pretty much it for Glyphs. The next section will be macros. So I'll go very quickly through macros, because really all you want to do is get in the description and copy and paste. What have we got first? We got the Frostburst macro. Essentially what this does, obviously pops Pillar of Frost, but it also pops your Strength Trinket. If you're a human, you can only use the use 13, use 14 method. If you're not a human, then you want to take away, basically that's the equipment slots. You either want to paste in the macro, the actual trinket itself, or you do is shift click into the macro, so you make sure you use the Strength Trinket at the same time you use your Pillar of Frost. They have the same cooldown, so you want them to be in sync with each other, and that's pretty much it. A really important one also is Stance Dance macro. The reason why I have it as it is rather than a cast sequence is because whenever you're in Frost Presence, it will automatically use Blood Presence, and vice versa. What it does, it just switches you in and out of Frost Presence, so that's pretty much what it is. This is definitely an essential macro. What we've got next is the Silence macro. I do actually have this with a 6A. It works the same way, even if I have Strangulate written in there. What it does, say the keybind I have for it is 5. I pop 5, and they silence on my current target. If I press Shift 5, it will go into my focus target, and that's pretty much it. But you can, if you want, make a separate macro for it to go into the focus. That's completely fine. Here I have Lichborn, but I also have it with Hellstone. I also have it with Death Coil on yourself, but that's only viable for an home. This is a pretty good macro. Sometimes you want to howl and blast the shit out of everyone, but you don't want to target anyone. Basically just puts it on a mouse over, so you can just blast it. If you need to blast it, for instance, if someone's capping the flag and you're like, shit, I don't have time to target, just fucking mouse over, press your howl and blast, and, cap prevent. What we have here is Death Grip on a focus, just like Strangulate. We also have Death Grip on Arena 1, 2 and 3. The reason I do that is sometimes I need to interrupt, for instance, a Case Bolt. That shit you need to interrupt, and if I don't have a Warlock on a focus target, I have a healer on a focus target, then, you know, it just needs to be interrupted. The same, I also have these macros to put different players on focus. For instance, sometimes a Priest, for instance, he goes stealth and then you lose a focus target, but I just use these macros to reapply it really easily. I also have these Arena 1, 2, 3 macros for Dark Sim. I also have one for my current target. You definitely want to be using this. You want to be aware, make it so in your interface you know exactly what everyone's casting, so you can steal crowd control even though you don't have that target or focus. For instance, I have a healer on focus, don't have the Warlock on focus. The Warlock casts the Fear, pop Arena 2 macro, Dark Sim, steal the Fear, then I pop it Arena 3 macro, pops the Fear onto the healer. Just, it saves time. That's what macros essentially do, they just save time by a massive amount. I also have the similar effects, you know, at focus for Chains of Ice. I also have it for Mind Freeze, for some reason I can't find it, there it is. You know, that kind of thing. So, for instance, if I have the melee DPS on focus, or for instance I'm trying to get closer to the healer, just pop it on focus, there you go. This is the Mass Grip macro. It basically just casts it on yourself, and that's it. I also have it on mouse over, so I can just pop it on, for instance, another somebody else on my team, or an enemy player. That easy. This macro, it's something you want to use for every class you have. It's a cancel aura macro. What it does, say if you get put in a bop, but you need to remove it to do something, it will remove that. It will remove Lichborn. The reason why it will remove Lichborn is because in Lichborn you are classified as an undead target, and you are victim to a massive amount of crowd control. For instance, Shackle Undead Priest, turn Fear, turn Evil Paladin, if they're still in the game anyway. Also for Ice Block, sometimes you can steal Ice Block accidentally, and then you're like, oh shit, I'm stuck in this Ice Block. You don't want to be fucking clicking it off on your buff place. You want to, you know, just use a macro to get it off. I also have it for conversion. Sometimes you leave conversion on, and it's like, you know, how the hell do I turn it off? Sometimes you can just click it again and it turns off, but if you've got a double tap macro, where is the double tap macro? I don't think I have it knocking about. I definitely put it in the description. What it does basically is you pop conversion twice and it drains about 20 runic power, but it does twice as much healing. It is somewhere, hang on, I'm going to find it. I think I deleted it when I suddenly discovered that conversion wasn't viable, but I've now changed my mind. I'm going to have to hit that macro again. That is pretty much it for macros. What do I have here? Slash reload. Well, there's a macro. I actually keep mine that, and that's sad. Target, pet target, no, you don't have pets. There is pretty much nothing. Oh, is that? Yeah, that's the conversion macro right there. Slash cast, and then you put a exclamation mark before the conversion. I also have Hearthstone in there for some reason, but ignore that because that doesn't work. But yeah, that's pretty much it for macros. That is everything there is, pretty much. So I'm just going to finish off with some arena terminology that I need to become familiar with. First one will be loss. If your healer is shouting at you and saying you're lossing, it means you are behind a pillar. Okay, basically what this means, say the healer is like near that water fountain, and actually the water fountain's a better example. Say the healer is over there, and I'm here. Obviously this water fountain is blocking me from being healed. It's called line of sight. I'm line of sighting my healer cannot heal me, I'm gonna fucking die. Sometimes obviously you do need to loss. Make sure if you go into loss you have defensive cooldowns, or you're not taking a lot of damage, because you can easily get switched and you can easily get killed. Another piece of terminology would be diminishing return. Excuse me. What that basically means is, for instance, if I stun a target and then I stun straight after, the duration of a second stun is going to be less than the first one. I think it's something like, say for instance a polymorph. Polymorph's like 7 seconds, then it's like 4, then it's like 2. So you need to be wary of that. You don't want to be diminishing. Sometimes you do want to do it, but you want to be avoiding it as much as you can. When it comes to choosing comps, because nobody knows what the hell is viable this season, I have an idea, but when it comes to choosing your healer and your DPS, the one you want to go arena with, that is something you have to think about. How much of our crowd control is going to have a diminishing return of each other, because if it has a lot, then the comp just isn't going to work. If the comp doesn't have enough control, then it won't work, unless it makes up for the lack of control in some other field, like damage or something like that. So that is pretty much all I can talk about Arena. Well, actually I lied, there is something else I can talk about, and that is something people call switching. Now, if you tunnel the same DPS for an entire game, I don't know, it's not the best tactic, to be honest, unless you know that DPS is the best target. What you want to do is you want to switch, because when you switch, it's like, especially when you have like, hang on, when you switch you can put out a lot of pressure in a short amount of time, and just, you know, you're against humans, okay, you're not against robots. You can catch people off guard, you can surprise people. Best time to switch, for instance, is when you have cooldowns, or when you have crowd control, or if the healer is, I don't know, in CC, if the like, for instance, if a Resto Druid has HOTS on the target you're trying to kill, if you swap onto a different target, he won't have HOTS, and so it'll be an easier kill. But the thing you want to be careful about is obviously defensive cooldowns. If a mage blocks, or if somebody uses a defensive cooldown randomly, like they didn't need to use it to survive, and you're wary of that, then you can switch on that target if you know they're going to die pretty easily. For instance, if a hunter, like, I don't know, for some reason deterrences, even though he's not taking a lot of damage, then you can easily swap on that hunter and kill him, because he won't have a deterrence. So be wary of, obviously, enemy defensive cooldowns and things like that, and you want to be switching pretty much, I don't know, like every minute or so. You want to make sure you're putting out the pressure. That's all it's about. It's all about in Arena is just putting out as much pressure as possible, timing your CC, timing your damage, switching on easy targets, and that's pretty much it. Let's briefly talk about rated backgrounds. Unfortunately, as a DK, it is your sole job to target call, and if you cannot target call, you're not going to get into an RPG group, probably not. The reason being is because of Death Grip. Target calling is, I do actually have a guide, but what you do is, say you want to kill a target, you shout your fucking ass off that target, say priest, I know, priest, go on to priest, everyone kill a priest. That's pretty much all you have to do. The reason why DKs have to tank call is because of Death Grip. You can grip enemy players into really bad positions. It's just like in an Alterac Valley fight, for instance. If you get gripped into their team, you're fucking dead, and that's pretty much why DKs are target calls. Okay, that is actually the end of the guide. I know it's been really meaty and really long, but you know, it has to be. And just, you know, you're probably thinking, is there anything more you can learn? Well, there is. Okay, there are links on the screen to a number of other guides, more specific, that you can watch and learn. For instance, key binding, how to use Dark Simulacrum properly in a bit more detail, you know, things like that. They are pretty much guys from the last expansion, but you know, they're still viable now. Last thing I want to talk about is, like, how viable do I think Frost DK is at the moment? I think it is. Okay, simply, I think about Frost DK at the moment, it is the highest, it has the strongest burst damage than any other class in the game that has been tested. It has 2 seconds more, like, the target will die 2 seconds quicker than any other DPS in the game. The damage is just insane. The pressure, I mean, overall damage is probably a bit less, for instance, than a Warlock, but I think the damage is one of the strongest in the game. The thing you need to understand about DK is that we are machines. All we have to do is damage as much as possible. We have limited control, but we have a lot of things to kind of keep us going, keep us you know, out of CC, keep us doing the damage, keep us unsnared, all that kind of thing. And that's what you want to be doing as a DK. You want to be make sure you're using an ability at least every global cooldown, doing as much damage as you can all the time. And that's it. It's just damage all the time. Okay, that is how the class works. I mean, a lot more other classes, you know, it's all about doing your control and then doing your damage, but no, DK is just like doing fucking loads amount of damage and then a little bit of control when you need it. Now, okay, that is the end of the video. Thanks for watching and everything, guys. Ciao. Get up, come on.